I will pass the mic over to Dr. Williamson, would you like to do a little introduction before we?
I could do a brief introduction before Ben jumps in. I don't want to take too much of his time. Ben, you can you can take a little bit extra time into mine so that I can do this introduction and you have a little time to get going. So anyway, I want to welcome everyone for being here. Once you hit graduate school, you're in an elite class of academics, right? There's only something like 13% of folks in the entire population who complete a master's degree. And I sincerely hope that's what you do is that you get through your master's degree and you're able to get it done within your 2 or 3 year time frame, or some cases, maybe if you're really fast, a year and a half. But I want to welcome you. I think we have a great agenda today. The first part of the agenda is really orientation around the catalog and the handbook, a little bit from our graduate coordinators and also the leaders of the Graduate Council, Jerry Glover, Doctors Jerry Glover and Gloria Gadsden, and also some discussion from the Center for Teaching Excellence, that's Ben Villarreal, and then I'll talk a little bit about the handbook and the catalog, and then Catherine will talk about other items, including Graduate Bridges to Success. The afternoon, oh, she looked at me like maybe she's not going to talk about that. That's fine if she's just maybe talking about GA contracts today. That's okay. And then in the afternoon, it's really a lot of that compliance training, and this is why graduate assistants are required to attend. It has to do with compliance with Title IX, has to do with compliance with FERPA, and you have to be trained on these items if you're handling privacy information and you're in a supervisory capacity or in a work role where there's mandatory reporting requirements. So those are the key elements that are brought to you in the afternoon. And with that, I think I'll open it to Ben Villarreal, who's our new director for the Center of Teaching Excellence. He and Veronica, who's the coordinator for the Center of Teaching Excellence, have a lot of great stuff they're doing over there. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Williamson. Good morning, everybody. I appreciate the introduction. As Dr. Williamson said, I'm Dr. Ben Villarreal. I'm the director of the Center for Teaching Excellence. I'm also an assistant professor of English here at Highlands University. I'm also an alum. I did my master's here, so I certainly know the feeling of beginning of the semester of grad school and how that feels, especially here at Highlands. I'll take just a little bit of time. I won't go over time too much so that you all can stay on schedule. But the Center for Teaching Excellence, essentially, I'm going to read straight from our mission. We serve the NMHU community by providing programming, resources, and support for quality teaching and advising, and for the assessment of effective student learning. So really, if you are working with students as part of your graduate assistantship, we're here to help you as well. I think oftentimes we're primarily thought of as a support for faculty. We support all instruction and education that goes on here at NMHU. So if you would like to come to our workshops, you'll see we run several different workshops, lectures, sometimes reading groups that we'll be doing this semester and the coming year. And you would like to come to those, you are more than welcome. Occasionally we'll do things that are just for faculty, and that'll be made clear. But if there's ever something, a topic that you're interested in learning more about, please feel free to contact us. And you know what, I'm gonna post it in chat, our contact information. So that's where you can find us in the Victoria Sanchez Teacher Education Center. And there's our and then Veronica also posted our website as well. Our email address is in there too. I'll also be holding office hours as part of my responsibilities. So if there are any teaching related questions, you just want to sit down with someone who has a doctorate of education and talk about those kinds of things, you are more than welcome to come and chat with me, and we can figure it out. If you are responsible for leading discussion groups in a lab, or if you are going to be in a classroom as a TA and you want some help putting together a lesson, or you just want to talk it through, or maybe you had something and you're like, I don't feel like that went that well, and you just want to talk to somebody and brainstorm how you might do that next time, all of that is fair game. I will say, if there is some kind of programming that you think you would like us to do, let us know if you and a bunch of your, peers are talking like, man, we really would like a workshop on this, and you think it's something that the CTE could provide. Shoot me an email, shoot us an email, and we'll see if we can't just put something together to help you out or find the resources that you need as well. And I think that that's the main stuff. I don't have too much more. Again, keep an eye on the globals for our upcoming programming. I'll be probably sending out a notice about those office hours here pretty soon as well. And again, do not hesitate to reach out if you think of something that we can offer to help you out. And I think that's all I have. Thank you, everybody.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Villarreal.
I think Ian, I think you were muted. And
I tried to talk, but yeah.
Yeah, Ian,
Yeah.
please.
No, does anyone have any questions of Ben? The Center of Teaching Excellence is something that really we want to see more and more utilization of. It's something where, again, if you guys run discussion sections, this is a huge resource for folks. I know that when I was a graduate student and I jumped directly into PhD, but when I was first running discussion sections at University of Minnesota in social psychology, I was really kind of, I had a hard time just like, how do I even begin? What do I do? How do I make sure students keep talking? I was worried that people would just, they would just look at me and they wouldn't say anything, and then you just walk around the room and then everyone's kind of in an awkward silence. And so that was one of my fears. It turned out that actually mentoring conversations was one of the things I was good at. I think I was better at doing that than actually giving lectures, to be honest. But it is something that's super important to feel comfortable getting your students to talk, giving them ideas, getting them going on discussions, and then also dealing with maybe some behavioral stuff that you might come up against. That stuff happens, and it happens all the time. And especially if you're new to it, you're going to have some growing pains on that. So I think Ben's group is going to be really helpful for you there. Okay, does anyone have questions? Is anything in the chat, Veronica?
No, nothing in the chat yet. I just want to remind you that information is being populated in the chat, so please take note of that. And reach out to the CTE. We're here to support you as well as our faculty and our community. So strong community equals success. So, but yeah, populate the chat with questions as we go. But Dr. Williamson, I will turn it over to you to talk about the graduate, the next steps in the graduate success.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen and go over some of the key items to being to interface with our office and that's the Office of Graduate Studies. And let me pull that up. Okay, is everyone, I'm going to also try to pull up as many faces as I can pull up as well on my other screen here. Okay, does everyone see the slide? Even though I'm on slide 7, now I'm on slide 1.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the Office of Graduate Studies is largely responsible for university-wide policy and procedure of living through the course of your graduate life from a bureaucratic standpoint. I'll just throw it out there. Largely what, it's ironic that I'm here because I never knew the point of all the forms that you had to fill out, but now I do because I work here. And these are the forms that largely have to do with setting yourself up to graduate at the beginning, doing any changes you need to make in between and declare that with the institution, and then proceeding to graduate in a timely fashion at the end. We're also kind of in charge of money. So when you have a GA ship, we administer to about $1 million of budget to these GAs, to these GA contracts. those are determined by the program. If they have money and they want you to be a GA, then we award those GAs from those programs. So that's pretty much, we just monitor and make sure they're not asking for 10 GAs, even though they only should have 7. And we're also just making sure that when those contracts get administered, ideally they're administered in a timely fashion. We're very proud that this year we got out something like 115 GA contracts just as the semester began. That's better than any time in recent history. So we're proud of ourselves. We hope that you guys will be set now to be paid on time and to be paid throughout the semester, those of you who are GAs. So my talk will largely be today about the graduate handbook and basically the graduate catalog. So those 2 documents are largely aligned. We're trying to get them totally aligned because they need to be totally aligned. But if there's ever something that you see as a contradiction between the graduate catalog and the graduate handbook, the graduate catalog is the one that controls. And by that, I mean, that's the one that matters more. That's the one that is hierarchically the more important document. Okay, so the way that our school is, the way our university is set up is we have 1 college and 3 schools. We have the College of Arts and Sciences, which probably a large majority of the graduate assistants are in that area. And then we have the 3 schools: social work, business, and media arts and technology, and then education. And so we're probably, all of you hail from those different areas of the university. Each of those have their own dean, okay, and that's the academic dean. And under those deans are the chairs of the university, and working with you more directly is the graduate coordinator. So for every program in the university, there's graduate coordinators, chairs, and deans, and you all have one of each of those. Sometimes you might, the coordinator and the chair might be the same, as in the case of Gloria, Dr. Gadsden. She is the graduate coordinator for sociology. She's also the chair of that department, which is sociology, anthropology, and criminal justice. I think she's also the coordinator for criminal justice as well. So those sometimes are overlap, they wear multiple hats. But for your purposes, most of what you will have to do is going to be through your coordinator and through your advisor, and in some cases, the chair. The chair is also typically called in if there are disciplinary issues as well. So then sometimes when you're talking to the chair, that's because of that. And hopefully that doesn't happen to you, hoping that we have 100% not having to deal with that. But you know, that's never the case. So that's the basic setup of the university. When you were admitted either on regular or provisional status. If you were admitted provisionally, there's a number of provisions. There's, I think, 4 that are the most common, by far the most common of provisional status. One is that you weren't perhaps academically prepared enough, so they're asking you to take a course or 2 more, or they're asking to see that you get a 3.0 or higher in your first semester to be off of provisional status, something like that. So that happens. We say you're almost there, so we're going to admit you provisionally, and we'll admit you fully if you meet those academic provisions we set. Another reason to be admitted provisionally is we don't have your official transcript yet, and that's largely procedural. We just need to get your official transcript. Once we get it, it turns to regular status. It's that simple. There's nothing more complicated to it. But when at time of admission, we only had an unofficial with us at the time. We didn't want to keep you from being admitted. We admitted you, but we did so provisionally, waiting to get that official transcript. And Catherine, Angel, you know when that official transcript has to come in, right? What is that date? Is that mid-semester, or what's the requirement?
It's usually by midterms of the first semester, and it needs to come from the university that you attended, all of them. It can't come from you. It has to come from the university.
Okay, so some of you guys might be in that category, so pay attention to that, get that cleared up so that you can be on regular admission status rather than provisional. There's some other, but those are the two major ones. And just attend to when you were admitted, look at that document, look at that letter, and make sure what your status is, if it was regular or provisional. Okay, any questions about that? No, okay. Credit transfers and test outs are handled by the program. So if you have, usually that's capped at 6 credits, although in some disciplines that you can transfer more credits in than that, maybe in some cases 12 credits. Those are handled through the program and to us later. So if there are credits that you have that you want to count toward part of your graduate program, typically we don't allow as many transfers. You know, for instance, with undergraduates, you can transfer, you know, like an entire associate's degree to transfer 60 credits. That is not typical in graduate programs. Typically, the most you're going to get is 6, and in some lenient cases, 12. So just expect that that's how many you'll be able to transfer into your program. Some exceptions also are going to be if you have advanced credit transfer in to the institution directly from Highlands, although that's just starting here at Highlands University. So you guys don't have that. You didn't have that program set up before. You would have just been taking classes in advanced standing. So those are credit transfers. Those are counting other university credit toward credit at our university in your program of study. Now, the next is the program of study, and these are super important to us. You might not think so. You might be like, why do I need to do this? But this is very important to the graduate office, and really it is very important to you, and here's why. It's essentially your contract with the institution to say, these are the courses I'm going to take in order to get out and be graduated at the front end. So in the first semester, you complete your program of study with your coordinator, with your advisor, and then submit it to your coordinator. And then you, in that, what you do is say, this is my plan. This is my plan to graduation. And if you then go about and take those courses and do well in those courses and keep a 3.0, then you're good to go come time to graduate. Now, changes come up and we'll talk about that as well. But the point is that that's your initial contract with the university that says, this is my program of study. This is what I need to graduate from the university. And then if you go ahead and do that, then, you know, on our side, we graduate you, right? So there's a relationship that we have here between you and the university, and we have to focus on that in the first semester at the end. And it's super, super important for our office and for the registrar to know what is it that you and the program have agreed to for your courses, okay? So the next thing that happens is the changes. Okay, so once you've established your program of study with the institution, there are things that come up in your life, or there are things that come up in the programming that's offered by the university, where for whatever reason you may not have been able to take those courses, okay? So then what we have to do is we have to fill out different forms. You can fill out a new program of study. So let's say you end up changing like 4 courses, which is a whole bunch. It might be just easier to submit a revised program of study than it is to substitute all those courses. But if we're talking about 1 course, then you just submit a substitution form. You make sure, of course, that your advisor and your graduate coordinator approve of this. And then you've substituted the course and you've said, I'm going to take this course instead, but it's going to still count because everyone's agreed to this change. So that's what the change is for. That's what we're saying. We're agreeing to those substitutions. And other things that come up, I don't know why I put concentrations and degrees on there, so I'm just going to leave that conversation to later. But another changes that come up, or things that can come up, are add, drop, and withdraw situations. So you didn't maybe register for your course in time during the registration window, and so retroactively you want to add the course. You can do this. It's just harder to do, and you can't do it too late. You got to get going, get yourself on time, but that's a retroactive add. If you're in a situation where you have come up and there was a medical emergency, or there was something that came up that disallowed you from completing the course, typically we recommend a withdrawal or drop. And withdrawals or drops happen often retroactively if they happen mid-semester, because this emergency happens mid-semester. Well, in those circumstances, you just have to know the difference between the two. A withdrawal is something where you are, you put it on your record that there's a W in the course rather than a grade in the course, and you still pay for that course, okay? Now, a drop is something where it's entirely pulled from the record, and also a refund is typically proffered as well. Now, as you can imagine, it's harder to secure a drop than a withdrawal, and the justification has to be more extensive. The other issue that comes up with drops is a financial aid issue. If you were given financial aid during the period, then dropping courses becomes a federal issue, because if feds gave you money to take these courses, they don't want you to then drop those courses because they already paid out on those courses. So you no longer become a drop candidate. So those are the issues that we typically face with drop, add, and withdraw issues for changes. But best of all, just register for those courses on time and then go to the class on the first day. But this is just like, things come up. These are institutional processes that occur when things come up. So does anyone have questions yet? Is there anything in the chat, Veronica? Is there anything I have to be paying attention to?
Dr. Glover mentioned that that's 25% of program. Large programs may have opportunities to transfer more credits. And then Henrietta Romero said it should be noted that graduate transfers of credit is not guaranteed and only accepted in the dark departments.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you guys for those comments. Yeah, I appreciate those additional comments. Absolutely. So sometimes this is another change that comes up. Sometimes people need to take a leave of absence. There are special considerations given to folks who need to take a military leave of absence, and they're allowed longer periods. But typically what we do is we allow a grace period of a semester, or sometimes in a case to even a year. But we have to be very active in letting people know. So let your coordinators know, let your program know when you need to take a leave of absence. It's just better to communicate with folks rather than drop off the planet, because what can happen if you drop off is that we don't know what your plans are. We don't know if you're thinking of coming back, and it's quicker that you'll be in a status where you won't be able to be as easily reactivated. So there's a difference between reactivation and admission. And if the grace period is short enough, and I think we allow 1 year now, is 1 year, that's right, is we can reactivate you, which is a shorter procedure than a full readmission. If it's more than a year, if you leave for more than a year, you have to reapply to your program, which they may, especially if you're not communicating with your program, they might not be excited to readmit you. So you want to be thinking about these things right away when you leave, and you want to have plans set up for you have to explain why, you don't have to, but you really want to, you strongly want to. And that's because, again, your program is who you have to work with to get reactivated or readmitted. And they're wanting to know, they want to help you. They want to help you graduate, but they also know that life happens. And so we just need to know what that life, what that time frame might look like, and what your plans are for either reactivation or just leaving entirely. It's also important because typically if people want to drop or withdraw, doing so in a timely fashion is relevant for a consideration later. So if you're asking for a drop 5 years after you've dropped a course and you want a refund, people aren't excited to do that when you haven't been communicating with the university. So communicate with the university. That's what I'm saying. That's my theme for the whole talk, is communicate with your faculty, communicate with your coordinators, and let us know what your situation is. That's going to keep you in good standing. So another issue around time has to do with time limits to graduations. And nowadays, most of what we look at is time limits, and less frequently are we looking at currency requirements, because those are now program specific. But the time limit issue has to do with from the moment you're entering into a program, from the time you enroll, you have a certain time limit to graduate. And if you take longer than that, you have to get an exception. We're not going to graduate you if you take longer than 7 years. Now, we think that's a fair amount of time, right? So these programs are typically 2-3 years programs, but again, life happens. We know that. We still want to say that this is the time limitation, and anything past that, we have to take another look at to see if they can graduate from our university. So just try to stay within those time limitations. If you're in a situation and this happens, there are people, believe it or not, there are people that come to our office who have been out for 20 years. They only had 2 courses left, or they had 1 course left, or they had their thesis to do, or whatever. And they're like, I really still want to graduate. And you're like, oh my God, it's been 20 years. And they still want to graduate and program. They're asking programs for this. And so this is something that's an issue. It's not an automatic. So don't assume that's an automatic, that if you come back 20 years later, you'll still be able to graduate even though you had all your courses. It has to do with this currency requirement, these time limits issues. It's kind of like degrees are they have a timestamp on them. They're saying that after a certain point, you're no longer going to be considered a master of your field, even though 20 years ago, you would have been considered a master of your field. Okay, so that is time limits. Next, we'll think about some of the academic side issues. You are expected to keep a cumulative 3.0 GPA throughout your program. Does that mean that you need a B in every or higher in every one of your courses? No, in some programs, there are additional requirements. Pay attention to those. So make sure you know if your program has additional requirements that you're keeping in good stead with those. Talk to your graduate coordinators about that. Look at your program specific policies regarding that. But the university-wide requirement is that the GPA is maintained at a 3.0 or higher for graduate students. That's something to take really close note of, because that is not true, of course, of an undergraduate. So this is different for graduate students. The standards are higher. You're expected to keep that 3.0. If the 3.0 dips below, if it dips, the cumulative dips below 3.0, you will be flagged for academic probation, and a notice will be sent to you and your coordinator that you have dipped below a 3.0 and you're on probation for a semester. If it happens for 2 semesters, or if your GPA dips below a 2.4, the current policy, which is under review, is that you may be given an academic suspension or an academic dismissal. What that means is you could be asked to not enroll for the next semester while you figure it out. Now, there are policies and procedures around saying, hey, let's talk to your coordinator, let's work together to get yourself back up and remediate so that things can go better academically. But those are sort of the flagging points, if you will, for if things dip below certain GPAs. And so, again, this isn't something that will come up if your GPA is 3.0 or higher. If it drops below there, that's when we're talking about some trouble spots that have to be worked through our office, you, and your graduate program. Okay. Grade appeals, we hope don't happen very often. We hope they never happen, but they do happen. Grade appeals happen when the student is disputing the course grade that they got, typically with their professor. So the professor gives them a D and they said, in fact, I deserve a B. Well, here's the thing about grade appeals is they're very hard to win. So if you're going to do a grade appeal, you need to have documentation for why your grade's higher. You can't expect someone to say, well, I deserve more because the instructor did X, Y, and Z wrong. That isn't going to be enough information to say that your grade should be different. What a grade should be different is to show the quality of your work vis-a-vis what the grade was, to show that you deserved, because of the quality of your work, to have a better grade appeal. So just so you know, they're hard to win. You need to be prepared if you're going to do that kind of thing, and you have to focus on the quality of your work and why you deserved higher grade if you want to pursue those. Ideally, you can. I recommend before filing a formal grade appeal that these be directed directly with your instructor in informal conversation earlier rather than at the end of term and formally. So that's also going to stand as evidence for the grade appeal, but it's also even more important because then you get on the same page earlier with your instructor and really clarify what's needed to make the grade that you're going for in the class and what you think you deserve. So have those conversations early, go in, get help, sort it out early. Informal conversations are really highly recommended with your instructor for those courses. Grievance and hardship petitions come up for a number of reasons. They're more common in undergraduate life because there are certain policy exceptions that come up. But I'm trying to think of examples of like typical examples of a graduate petition. Catherine, can you help me out of like one type of content that we might see?
Sometimes we get graduate petitions because they've taken the course or they've taken a series of courses and they want that to count towards their degree. So
Okay.
that's one. Another one is that they may be like one class shy of getting their degree and they would like a waiver on that. So we get a multitude of things. We also get a lot of medical graduate hardship petitions.
Okay. So graduate hardships come up because for various reasons, some requirement may need to be looked at to see if we can process a waiver. Ideally, these don't need to come up. They should be well justified for why an exception should be made, but they're basically requests for exceptions. And they have to do with hardships you face that lead to why that's a particular challenge or issue for you and your program. So academic integrity, I just want to stress, and I know maybe Gloria has stressed this in the past as well, and she might stress it today, but academic Alexis, could you mute?
Forward.
Thank you. Academic integrity, this really has to do with code of conduct stuff, and the student code of conduct is actually housed under the dean of students, not myself, but especially revolves around plagiarism issues, copying issues, and just really taking care, not only not yourself to plagiarize other work and to properly cite it, but also not to give out your work to others where it could be easily plagiarized. I think people overlook that side of it, is that they think they're being helpful by showing their friend their lab. It's better to work with your friend, to talk to them about how they might approach their lab differently, or mentor them like you would a tutor if you're wanting to reach out and help a friend or colleague in your program. It's never a good idea to just give them your work. Okay, because what are they going to do with that? I mean, just use it as help? Well, I mean, you got to think this through. They could very much, and they have done, I've seen it many times in my own program, too many times that I don't like it. I mean, they should have never seen it this many times. One time I saw someone, they sent an email document to me because I had them do an electronic submission, and they had submitted another student's work as their own, but it was the same class, so we had seen the other student. But the dead giveaway was the other student had put the work in the header, their title in the header line, but it wasn't visible in the document when they were resubmitting it as their own. So it came up as listing the original student's name on top of the new student's name. Okay, and then they still claimed that they didn't know what they were doing, and that they didn't know that that it wasn't okay to just entirely resubmit someone's work verbatim. So obviously it wasn't okay, and obviously we had a problem with that. Plagiarism is a big deal. The biggest behavioral issues we deal with are going to be plagiarism, and they're going to be issues between undergraduate and graduate students in the labs and discussions you're leading. These are the most common. So what might happen is you might become attracted to one of your undergraduate students in those labs or discussion sections. Be aware that that's going to present challenges for you. And it's better not to hide on that. It's better to have discussions and sort it out right away once you're experiencing those, again, with colleagues and with your graduate coordinator, to get things aligned so that that's not taking place. There's not a conflict of interest between you as a grading supervisor, as a grading teacher, and your students. So those are the two, by far the two most common issues I've seen in the programs we've had. So just be aware. Just be aware that these are sensitive items. What's that, Veronica?
We've gone a little over time. It's my fault for
okay, that's cool. You're doing graduate assistantships with Catherine anyway. So I just want to say one more thing, which is graduation deadlines. There's a whole slew of documents at the end as well that you have to submit, and be aware to submit those to us in the register in a timely fashion. Degree check, application for a degree, all those things that happen in your final year. And Catherine can talk about a little of that later too. Okay, I'll stop. I talked too much. I knew I'd talk too much. I always do that.
No, it's all good. I do apologize. I misread our schedule. So next up on our agenda is Dr. Gloria Gadsden and Dr. Jerry Glover. I understand that Dr. Gadsden had to bounce early, but Dr. Glover, I'll pass it over to you. I'll do better on my time. I apologize.
That's okay, because Dr. Gadsden had to bounce early, mine will be shorter. So it's all gonna work out in the end here. I'm Dr. Jerry Glover. I'm the chair of the counseling program out of the School of Education. Dr. Gloria Gadsden and I are the co-chairs of the Graduate Council. The Graduate Council is a group of faculty, graduate program coordinators, and in some cases, like in the School of Education and Counseling, I am the chair of the program and also the primary graduate coordinator. And the purpose of our group is to support graduate students and support graduate faculty. The things that we do primarily look at policies and procedures related to anything related to graduate students. That's what we do in graduate programs. We try to support recruitment. We listen to new ideas that graduate faculty bring in. We look at new programs. We don't approve new programs, but we look at them. We advocate for graduate students at every moment that we can to make sure that you guys are being supported with what you need. Because we meet together, we also are able to encourage interdisciplinary work, and so that our different departments might do projects together. Anything that we can to advance graduate studies at Highlands. Highlands is a has a very, very large population of graduate students. Over 40% of the students at Highlands are graduate students. And we have a couple of different types of graduate students, in the sense that we have traditional graduate students who might be working on degrees and even still on campus, and maybe in that 22 to 27 age range. But then our significant number of our graduate students are from the professional programs of business, education, social work, and of course, counseling. And so that group of students is often working adults who are doing a graduate degree in addition to raising their families and working. And those programs tend to be quite a bit larger than the ones that are coming out of our traditional graduate students. So there's a combination of students who have different needs, and we have to pay attention to the fact that different types of graduate students have different needs that need to be acknowledged. Dr. Williamson talked about you being an elite group. You are an elite group. And as an elite group, you have special responsibilities. You are a role model to the undergraduate students and to other graduate students as well. You're a role model. You're not only a role model for each other and for undergraduate students, you're a role model in our communities. And having a graduate degree or pursuing a graduate degree at New Mexico Highlands University is a responsibility that we hold very high, that we want you to represent us well. With many programs at Highlands, but especially our graduate programs, our recruitment is often very much word of mouth. And you, as a representative of our university, are our best recruiting tool. Not only do you tell other people about our programs, but how you comport yourself in public lets other people know how professional our programs really are and how good they really are. And so that's a really big, important aspect. We were asked, Dr. Gadsden and I were asked to talk a bit about behavior. Well, that's probably the biggest one. And, you know, what kind of a role model would you want to be? And pay attention to that. Dr. Williamson went over the graduate handbook. You should read that cover to cover, but also be aware that the graduate handbook is a living document. And of course, it's in process at all times. And so when you read the one that is posted right now, there's changes occurring with that handbook, and a new one will be posted as soon as it's approved through all the processes that it needs to be approved from. But do read that. As Dr. Williamson said, the catalog, of course, is paramount, and that we follow if there's any rules in the catalog. But on a day-to-day and trying to understand what happens as a graduate student, that graduate handbook is really, really important. Actually, I think that was really all. We are all here to assist you. And you work for us too, those of you who are graduate assistants. And so, you know, you probably have maybe closer relationships with some of your faculty because you're working in your departments. However, we are available as graduate program coordinators of graduate programs to assist you in any way that we can. And so if you run into problems or have questions, or you see a policy or procedure that is either unfair or there isn't one in place and you're continually asking people, well, how do we do this? Maybe that procedure is something that we should be talking about in graduate council and getting it formalized so that the next group of graduate students coming through are able to get those questions answered more quickly. I think that is something that we learn all the time in graduate programs. You guys go through your programs fairly quickly. We're here all the time and we forget that new students coming in may have more questions for us. As some of our graduate programs, the program for counseling is 60 credits. And so our students are around for 3+ years. Some of you are here as graduate students for 1.5 years. You're in and you're out. But if you have experienced anything that you feel like, wow, it would have certainly been easier had I known, then please let us know. Talk to your graduate coordinator. They will bring that issue to graduate council and we can talk about it to make things smoother and easier for you as best we can. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Glover. Excellent. So Dr. Gadsden shared with me a PowerPoint, and like I said earlier, all of the resources that are going to be shared throughout this orientation will be made available to you on the CT website. So look forward to Dr. Gadsden's information as well. So with that, Dr. Glover was right. We're moving right along. We're doing better than what I was doing. So I'm going to pass the baton right over to April Kent from the library. April, are you with us today? Hi, April.
Hi, right here.
Awesome. I'm going to spotlight you really quickly, just pin you up there. And the floor is yours.
Okay, well, welcome to Highlands, or welcome back for those of you who are returning. I am here to give an overview of library resources. And one thing that will be shared with you is a 2-page handout, and I haven't sent it yet, but I will, a slideshow. 2 key takeaways from the library, though. Number 1, we are here to help you with your research process. The secondary research really can't help you with the lab side of things. And we don't expect you in the library to memorize anything. So if you can't remember how to find a link, we're happy to walk you through. We're constantly creating new video and print tutorials on how to access our services. The second thing, as a graduate student, and I want to emphasize this, sometimes you're Googling around and you're finding the perfect journal article for your research project. You hit a paywall. Don't pay for journal articles. Come to the library. If we don't have it for you immediately, we have interlibrary loan. We have started a new service, which I'll be reviewing. It's new software, but it's the same service. And we will be able to borrow articles from around the nation to meet your research needs. So 2 things, ask for help. Number 2, don't buy journal articles. And I always say that because we always have a few who do. My name is April. Please do call me April. And I'm going to share a PowerPoint because a lot of our library resources, it's a very visual way of getting to them. And I know mix of people who know Highlands University very well and some who don't. So it might be some repetition and some new information. So with my 15 minutes, which might go a little short, I'm going to talk about how to get materials from our library, how to use interlibrary loan, highlighting other resources from the library, and then a few other services. So first and foremost, there are many ways to get to the library. Sometimes I tell people you can go ahead and Google NMHU library. One of the best ways to go is to go through the portal, My NMHU, that's up there on the main page. If you go down, you'll see one of your apps is libraries, but no matter what you do, you'll be taken to the same page. In the center of our main landing page is Libros, which is our catalog. And through here, you can search for, and I just want to pause here. Thumbs up, Veronica, you can see my screen okay? Okay, good. I have been trying to check, but I've been giving lots of presentations this week. I'm sure we're all also suffering from information overload. Again, nobody expects you to memorize this. Our catalog allows you to search for books, electronic books, and other resources here at Highlands. You can see here, it does let you search for books, articles, and videos. I want to note a lot of these things are set up for the undergraduate, for the less expert searcher. So as a graduate student, you're mostly going to be using our Libros catalog to search for books in our collection and from around the world, and also perhaps DVDs. For articles, you're going to want to go to our databases. I also know some of you are going to be teaching or mentoring or some other way with undergraduate students. So we always highlight with our list of databases, our general databases, and these are 3 multidisciplinary journal article databases that do cover a little bit of a lot of fields. So they're a good place to start if you're not sure where to go, always beloved of the freshman composition speech writing classes. But as a graduate student, you're pretty much going to be going to your subject-specific databases, and we have them organized here by databases by subject. We also have databases by title, which is an A to Z list of all the databases that we subscribe to, the ones we get through partnerships and quality resources that are available on the open web. Okay. If you go to databases by subject, you'll be greeted with a columns of subjects that are taught here at Highlands and a few other things like videos and non-academic resources. I have here an example of what it looks like if you went to our psychology subject specific link, and you will have a list of databases, primarily journal article databases, the way you can get those articles without hitting a paywall. And you can also search on topics. You will see the name of the journal. So here we have APA Psych articles and a brief description of what it covers. So it will say, are you going to be searching journal articles, streaming videos, and more? And you also will note on the side, it will say if it's full text, meaning all the content in that database is immediately available to you, or for some like APA Psych Info, which is the major index for psychology, that it's an index. And often that means that you'll be able to get some content, some journal articles, full text, but since it does cover such a wide variety of the behavioral science literature, some of it will just be the record for the article, and you're going to have to get it elsewhere. To access these databases, you would click on the title of the database. And sometimes, depending on how you logged in, you might have to log in again using your username and password. If you ever come into any problems, please do reach out to the library. We are open over 70 hours a week during the regular semester, a bit more during exam times, and a bit shorter during break times. We go in, you'll see a typical search interface. It will vary from company to company how it looks. And a lot of these major research databases, some things like we see result number 6, there's a PDF. You can get the article in its entirety. For others, there'll be journal article linker, and that's an indication that we might have it from another resource, might have an individual subscription, a link to open access. And if not, this will be something you can request from Interlibrary Loan. Now, Interlibrary Loan, very popular service for graduate students, especially in faculty, although it's open to everybody. This is where we borrow material from other libraries for you. And this would be books, book chapters, articles, DVDs, a whole host of different types of resources, but primarily I would say it's journal articles. You can access our interlibrary loan system on our main page. So it's below that, those links for how to access databases. We have a link to interlibrary loan. There is a page that gives all of our policy statements. We're always happy to clarify any if you have any questions or concerns about interlibrary loan. And as part of this slideshow is when you click on this link, last year we had one software called Iliad. Now we have a software called Tapasa. And in the handout that we're sending, there is a link to a video that walks you through the different steps. The interlibrary loan is apart from your other sign-ins, and you do have to set up an account first. So you have to reset your password, check your Highlands email, set it up. And then once you have that, you can start requesting materials we don't have immediately available to you. So these slides cover how to do that. Once you sign on, you can create a request. We have one form for articles. We have another for books. Books also include things like DVDs if you need to get access that way. You fill out the information, and with articles, those are all requested electronically. Once we receive it from another library, you will get a link that allows you that you click on, has a password. You'll also be emailed a password, and you have access to the article. Since it's all done electronically, this works relatively quickly. Books, we do rely on the United States Postal Service, so you have to build in more time for them. And any questions, I'll have the interlibrary loan contact at the end of this presentation. We are more than just books. So other resources, we have school-sponsored subscriptions for everybody to the Wall Street Journal. So if you are a business student or want to know more about business news, you should check out and sign up for your Wall Street Journal membership. There's a lot of great things in there. Plus these subscriptions packages that the library subscribes to, they know that it is a student base. So once you sign up, you have it through your career here, usually have a grace period after you graduate, and they'll often give you discounts afterwards when you're a working professional. So this is just Wall Street Journal, NMHU, and that also does apply for all Highlands staff and faculty. The other newspaper we have access to for everybody who is a Highlands affiliate is the New York Times. I know it's very popular with some classes, very good quality research there, and all the information is available on our webpage as well as in the slide presentation and on the handout. In addition to having the traditional resources like books and journal articles, we increasingly have other we have other kinds of electronic content, such as streaming video. We have several streaming video databases you can access through databases by subject. Go to videos. One of the most popular is Canopy. This is sometimes Netflix of academic and public libraries. It has a lot of documentary films, a lot of classics and independents. I think I have it memorized, the different films that social work students always get to watch, and we get it from this service. And it also has a lot of very interesting content just for your overall intellectual and entertainment needs. We have other ones here that you might not expect, such as a language database, which helps you do self-paced courses in different languages, including over 70 and English as well. So we do have a lot of really great things from the library. Since I know I am talking to people who might be teaching a class or be in some other way involved with a class, we do offer library instruction sessions. So if you are the instructor or you are running a discussion section, you can contact me on my contact information to set up a library visit to a class. If you want to put material on reserve, either physical reserve or electronic reserve, you may also contact the people on this list. And I know for the graduate programs here, some people have a thesis option, some people have a non-thesis, but if you are writing a thesis or a professional paper, Josephine Senna, our periodicals librarian, has all the physical guidelines for those. As you get closer, we recommend that you do reach out to her to make sure all the formatting is correct, and she can help you with that information. And we have a lot more than just that. So as I see my time is going short, I wasn't going as short as Dr. Glover. We have contact information. Please do reach out. We do have reference service. Again, we are open a lot of hours. We have our hours posted on the website, also on the sheet. I put interlibrary loan contact because that's probably the biggest contact aside from reference that graduate students need. And I end with my own. So kind of just a quick whirlwind. Again, nobody expects anybody to memorize anything about library services. Remember, we're here to support you and to answer any questions you might have.
Awesome. Thank you so much, April. The library is amazing. And please use their resources. I love Canopy. I think the YA section in the library is also really great. For fun reading. Who has time for fun reading? But you know, if you do,
you make time.
Yeah, you make time. You make time. Absolutely. All right. Thank you again, April. We'll share her contact information if you did not all get it, but there is a link to the library in the chat along with the handout that she provided. So that's there as well. And again, this will all be made available to you on our website. So moving right along. I feel like that's a song from like a Muppet show or something. Anyways, we are going to move right into a presentation from Gail Martinez, who is from the Center for Professional Development and Career Readiness. Gail, are you with us today? There you are. I see you.
I am. I'm right here. Thank you for having me today. So I am going to start sharing my screen right away. And okay, so I want to start off by showing you guys Brightspace, because many of you students should all have Brightspace. And right under NMHU resources, you are going to see a link that says Center for Professional Development and Career Readiness. I'm on a laptop, so it's not showing the rest of it, but on your desktop, I'm sure it'll read the whole information. This direct link is going to take you to our SharePoint site that we have created for our students and faculty and staff as well. What we did is we wanted to put information that was easily accessible for you. This one will take you directly to our webpage. And these three are platforms I just want to introduce you to. We have Optimal Resume, which will help you build resumes, cover letters, follow-up letters. It has an interview platform with 12,000 plus interview tips and questions, which are all broken down by occupation. It even has a cool thing called a website where you create your own link and it has your resume and cover letter in there. In addition, we have Handshake. Handshake is a platform that allows you to network with employers that have an account with New Mexico Highlands University. These employers are locally within the state of New Mexico and also nationwide. Employers can post events, jobs that they're having, and we can even post events. So we have our virtual career fair that's going to take place on October 20th through Handshake. If you haven't already created a profile, go in there and create it. Just make sure that your profiles are complete, because that's one way the employers can research if they're wanting to post and reach out to specific groups. So make sure your profiles are always complete. Our newest platform is called Engage at HU. Engage at HU has a few really neat things in there. One of them, it will post all the events that the university is having on and off campus, also community events. There's pathways in there, like a financial literacy pathway, for example, and it also offers a co-curricular transcript. What's neat about that is we all know we have an academic transcript. Well, the co-curricular transcript actually talks about your other side of the story. So when you are applying for jobs and you submit your application along with your resume and cover letter and your academic transcript, you can add this co-curricular transcript, and it kind of gives like a little bit room to talk about something new in this interview. So I hope you all take advantage of these platforms. Please know that they're all free to you as a student and also as an alum. More so, we have events that are posted down here, and I'm actually going to want to take you to our calendar, because it'll also show those events that I just want to quick tell you about. So we are going to be providing, or I will be providing, an optimal resume training on September 1st, as well as a student employment training on September 1st. And then another student employment training on September 8th. And here's information on our virtual career fair. The resources we have, if there's any documentations we want to share with you, you can go and click on each one and they will have information for you. I'm going to click on this real quick before I go to our student employment. And this is, we all have to wear masks now, dealing with this new normalcy that we have with the COVID. And so there's a thing that came from NACE, and this is talking about proper mask etiquette. So when you're meeting an employer, there's ways of maybe speaking louder, because we're wearing these masks that kind of, if you're like me, tend to talk lower. You have to remind yourself you might have to speak a little bit louder. And so it's really great. We're just really trying to share information. So going to student employment, I'm going to click on that link. We have our student employment handbook, and oh, where did it go? Here it is. And we also have a printed version. So if you're ever interested in an actual hard copy, stop by my office. I'm in the Felix Martinez building in Suite 230. Here's ITS policy that you'll need to be aware of. Here's a payroll schedule for the calendar year for any of you students who are been recently hired for student employment and or are looking for student employment. Here is information you'll have. I've also have in here our student employment presentation, professional etiquette, things to make sure you're always following through on a daily basis. And here's also tips for supervisors who need to manage students as well. So going on to the presentation, please let me know if you all can see the PowerPoint presentation. If somebody can just say yes or no.
We can see it, yeah.
Perfect, thank you. So I'm gonna go to the slideshow version. So we want to make sure that we provide you a meaningful student employment experience. So in part of that, for those of you who have not already applied for student employment, there is People Admin. That is where all the job postings can be are posted. You'll see them broken down by students, staff, and faculty. So just click on the ones for students. And as part of that meaningful experience, we want you to know that not only will you have to submit an application, but you also have to submit a resume and cover letter. Other departments may require you to submit a transcript or other documentation. So make sure you're looking out for the required documentations. You also need to be aware of the ITS policy, which I showed you was right there in the student employment section. And the HR documentations, that's the documentation when you are hired, you'll be filling out, such as an I-9, a W-4, and so forth. Just quick, like again, there's Optimal Resume if you need assistance in building your resume and cover letter, and/or for interview tips. There are different types of funding for student employment. They are federal work study, state work study, and departmental work study. To be eligible for federal and state work study, you must have submitted a FAFSA application, meet all financial aid tracking requirements. You must be registered for a minimum of 6 credit hours. You must be meeting the financial aid student academic progress, and you must be degree seeking. If you've met all of those requirements, you will see that in your financial aid package, you have been awarded federal or state work study. If you did not submit a FAFSA application, we still have departmental work study. The one requirement that you must meet is you must be registered for a minimum of 6 credit hours. If you do not register for a minimum of 6 credit hours, you will not be eligible to work for either federal, state, or departmental. Know that both undergraduates and graduates are eligible for work study. Federal and state work study are on a need base. That is why you must submit a FAFSA application. But departmental work study is for both non-need and need-based students. Students are eligible to work up to 20 hours a week, no more than 40 hours a pay period. There is a student salary rubric that has it broken down by the levels of student, and basically the department is choosing what level they're looking for somebody to be hired at. And so we do have a wage scale on that there. So just want you to be aware of that. And funds are, students will be awarded work study for as long as the funds are available. Once they've exhausted, meaning they have awarded all the funds, then there will be no longer awards to offer any students from that point on. So hasn't happened yet to my knowledge, but you never know what could happen. So just wanted to let you know that. What you need to know. Well, we want to, study has proven that some of the benefits students have received while attending the university are they have seen higher GPAs, they're graduating at a faster rate, they are less likely to withdraw from the university, they earn some durable and transferable skills that they can list on their resumes, and they have a higher chance of finding a job after graduation. One of the things we always tell, which anybody must do, is we must always conduct ourselves in a professional manner. So when you're working, make sure you're always on your, I guess you can say on your best behavior, so to say, and providing professionalism to anybody that you're working with, your coworkers and/or any customers. Dress code. One thing I like to stress out about the dress code is that get to know your department. Find out if they have any dress codes. Specific departments that might, or some departments that might have specific requirements for you to dress up, like might be in a research lab. They might provide you a lab coat to wear. They might even have anybody who has long hair to tie their hair to the back. So always make sure you sit down with your supervisor and find out specific requirements as far as dress codes. I also want to let you know that at our office, we actually have a career closet. So if any of you need any clothing for interviews or just to be more dressed up in a in the clothing that the department may ask. You're welcome to come look at the clothing and try on the clothing. We have dressing rooms there as well, and you can keep it. It's not any clothing that you have to return to our department. Another thing we really want to stress out is customer services. When you are dealing with a customer, always be professional, and your phone etiquette. I'm just going to give a few examples that you can do. And so one of them is when you answer the phones, always, hello, my name is Gail Martinez. I work for the Center for Professional Development and Career Readiness. How can I help you? You want to state your name, and you want to state your department. If you work in a department that is very busy and you're at the front covering the front desk and you're answering the phone, if the phone rings and you have a customer that you're already working with at your front desk, kindly ask the customer in front of you if they could please wait so you can answer the call. When you answer the call, you just, again, hello, my name is Gail Martinez. Thank you for calling the Center for Professional Development and Career Readiness. Could you please hold? I'm currently attending to another customer. This lets them know that you're already assisting somebody and you will be back with them. How to handle an uncomfortable situation. If it's dealing with an irate customer, go to your supervisor immediately. If they're not nearby, go to the next professional staff member that's there so that they can assist you if you're dealing with somebody that's being irate either in person or on the phone. If there's an uncomfortable situation, maybe amongst a coworker, go to your supervisor. Always make sure you let your supervisor and or another professional staff member, faculty member know, and so that somebody can assist you and start remedying the situation.
Yeah.
Yes.
You have 2 minutes left.
2 minutes. Okay. So just know all communication goes to your Highlands email address. Please, no-show procedures. Nobody should never not show up at work. Make sure that you always call in if something comes up that will keep you from going into trainings. Attend any trainings. They are here for you. Make sure you meet, go to all your work meetings. Always provide your supervisor your class schedule so they can set up a work schedule that works around your class schedule. You can submit your timesheets through self-service banner. And that is also where you can see your check stubs and your W-2s as well. We highly rely on you to come into work. We have work for you to do, so please never be late and always be in attendance. Go on to another one. There are a few things that do apply for students. On-call pay, those are typically anybody who is working at our residence hall. There's also workers' compensation, and if you happen to get injured at work, please make sure to report it to your supervisor immediately, and they'll start going through the proper channels from there. There is any violations, there are corrective disciplines. They start off with the verbal warning. Depending on the behavior, it could constitute right away for a written and/or termination immediately. Some of those are listed in your handbook, so make sure you get familiar with them. And again, and lastly, we have in there some interview basics for you. We want you to make sure that you always know your job duties and your expectations. That should be communicated to you from your supervisor, and also don't rely on them to tell you first. Have a conversation with them and ask them, what are your expectations when you first start working with them? Ask them questions. And there's also questions there that they should not ask and or you should not ask. And I think that will cover what I needed for student employment. I hope I stayed with those 2 minutes.
You did good. Thank you so much.
Thank you for telling me.
Trying to do better. All right. Excellent. Thank you so much, Gail. And please, the Center for Professional Development and Career Readiness is a really amazing resource and super helpful as you are going through this experience and getting ready to get out into that professional space. They're really here to support you, and they have a lot of great tools to offer. Hope we're all feeling well. I know we're we're just moving right along. We do have a break coming up, I promise. But the very last thing for this afternoon or this morning is the graduate affairs coordinators GA contracts. So this will be Catherine Brooks Williams. She's going to be your friend in graduate studies. So Catherine, the floor is yours.
Okay, I'm going to try and make this as quick as possible. I know we're getting hungry and people need to take a break. So I'm the one who creates the contracts. Your department chairs and your department graduate coordinators fill out a graduate request that I get on a daily report every day. If they have not filled that out, I cannot write you a contract. I've had a couple of students that were already upset with me this week because they haven't gotten their contracts yet, and I have yet to receive the request forms. So the first thing I want to tell you on your graduate contracts is you're going to look and see what type of how long you've been hired for. So in this case, in this particular student, they were hired for the semester, but they can also be hired for the entire academic year. Okay. It'll tell me that if you're a rehire or if you're a new hire, if you're a grant student, if you're a New Mexico graduate scholarship, if you're an international student, or any of the combinations thereof, because we have some international students who are also grant students who have also been rehired. So we get this information so HR knows right away what they need. The other thing you're going to find out is look at here is whether or not you have what type of assistantship. So generally most departments like to give full ones. Some like psychology like to give 3/4. Some have limited amount of GA ships, so they do half or they do 1/4 so they can spread it out. You're also going to look at this portion here. If this date says right there that you're from August 16th through December 10th, you cannot start working before August 16th. So check that date. Check that date. You cannot work before that date. Okay. The other thing we're going to be, oh, I just did that. Sorry, you guys, I went over my thing. The other thing you're going to be looking at is the number of hours per week that you're going to be working. Some are 10, some are 20, very few are 5. You can have 2 different types of work studies. You can split your GA 10 with one department and 10 with another. We have a few of those. You also, if you're going to be taking, because you must enroll in at least the number of credits that you're awarded. In certain cases, you have to enroll at least not full-time, just depending on what type of program you're in. And if you're going to be taking more, you got to submit to us a graduate assistantship exemption form. My email is right there. If you're taking less than what you're awarded, then you also have to fill that out. What I do is I collect those from you. I send them to Dr. Williamson, who then gives his approval. So you need to let me know, because this is how we're tracking how long you're getting an assistantship for. The maximum amount is 2 years. We have made exceptions to 3 years, just depending on your program. Okay. We're trying to help you guys. The other thing we want to do is find out how many credit hours you are going to be given a tuition discount or waiver to. So in this case, the student got 9 credit hours per semester, and anything over 9 credits, that will be your responsibility as a GA student. You also have to have your duties here. So attending today is great because you have to attend, you have to be in compliance, you have to do the FERPA, the compliance and the COVID-19 required trainings is required. Attending will help you get those. And then your duties of records. One of the things that HR is cracking down on is putting out there like grant objectives. Okay. They want to know what the grant objectives are and how you're going to meet that. Some of you are going to have some specifics. Geology likes to have a lot of different duties and they list it out very well. Some like this one, they keep attendance records, they keep current grade records for the course they attend the classes, they help the students, they do this, they do that. So that'll be listed in your GA contract as well. One of the things that's very, very important is these FOPs. This one is your position FOP, and this is your tuition waiver FOP. If you do not have the tuition waiver FOP here, then your department has told me that you're getting your tuition paid by another party, or that you're not going to be covered for some reason or another. Okay, we had some summer GAs this summer. It was very limited, but we had some money left over, so we offered that, and we could not do the tuition waiver. So you have to have both of these. If you're like with the New Mexico Graduate Scholarship Program, you're also going to have an additional FOP here. And then if you're with a department or with a program or a grant, you're also going to have an additional FOP that's not going to look like this. Okay, those are important. We have to have both of those on your contract. So we're going to go through some of the facts of the contract. So you have to be degree seeking. We cannot issue GAs contracts to anybody who is a non-degree. You can't be enrolled in more than 12 hours unless you fill out that form and you send it to me and it gets approved. It has to be approved before you can enroll in those extra credit hours. Okay, it starts from the first day of classes through finals week. The only exception is spring break if you're working on the spring contract. You get spring break off, but in fall you don't. And it is through finals week. I've had a lot of students call me and say, my department's making me work, and I have a GA, Catherine, and they're making me work through finals week. And I usually go, they can do that. So check with your departments, okay? Generally speaking, the ancillary fees like the health center fee, deferred payments, lab, class fees, special fees are not covered by the GA whatsoever. The only exception are for those of you who are covered by the CREST grant, because the CREST grant is not the Office of Graduate Studies, and they have extra money. So we're only going to pay tuition for your graduate level courses that are listed on your program of study. So that's why we need copies of your program of study as soon as possible. We do not pay for undergraduate or non-credit courses, and we generally don't pay for anything over 12 or over 9 credits. If you're an out-of-state or international student that receives at least a half-time award, any other tuition will be paid at the in-state rate. Okay, so in other words, you have a half-time commitment to work, you're going to get 6 credit hours waived, and you're taking 12, so the other 6 credit hours will be paid at the in-state rate. Okay, for international students, we have a list of things that you need to have and be in compliance of. Otherwise, Tina Clayton at the International Education Center gets on my case, okay? So this will be in your contract starting in spring, that you have to have a physical presence and must be enrolled on our main campus, that you have to have an F1 or J1 visa classification, and you have to maintain it, that you also have to have a United States bank account, that you're required to update your address changes to the registrar's office. And by the way, that needs to be done if you're a graduate assistantship student, a scholarship student, or just a regular graduate student. If you change your address, please get that taken care of at the registrar's office. You're also going to have to apply for a social security number and take that receipt to Human Resources. And if you're working a telework agreement, we have to have a physical address, okay? This goes in your contract. So most international students come here, and so do out-of-state graduate students come here using their mailing address from their home. We also have to have that physical address for you to be able to work telework. Okay, I know I just slammed through that, and I know you guys are probably feeling like you're fire hoses right now, you know, just all that. Do you have any questions? Okay, I just have a
couple comments, Catherine. So the reason that we have people filing exceptions when they're receiving GAs and they have more than 12 credits is just because, again, the policies are built around this idea that if you're taking that many credits, can you manage a full-time assistantship as well, because it's 20 hours and these are graduate credits and this is a lot of work, and that's why those exceptions have to be approved. The other issue I want to mention is the in-state rate is just if that's not happening. So if the remaining part of your tuition, if you're receiving a half-time scholarship or you're getting 9 credit tuition waived, the remaining part of your tuition should be in state, but if it's not happening, let our office know. Okay.
Okay, any questions? You guys ready for a break? By the way, I'm the one that will send you your provisional and probation notifications, which will start happening next month. I send everything to your Highlands email address. If you're on provision, I try to let you know what you need to have to get that provision removed or what you still have left to do. I also send it to your graduate coordinator programs so that they're aware as well. And if you have met those provisions, I also let you know.
So yeah, one last thing before break. Just the next part of the afternoon are those compliance trainings, and they're really, really critical as a GA to have this information on privacy protection as well as on places where mandatory reporting is required. And so, and there is a training associated with the mandatory, with FERPA. And you do need to complete that within the week. And we are monitoring that. So we are making sure that all our GAs have that training, because it's a legal requirement that as people who are working for the university, which you are, that you complete that training. And then Veronica, I'll turn it over to you if you have any last comments.
Sure. Thank you. And thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Dr. Williamson. Thank you for everyone for holding in there. It's been a busy morning, I'm sure. It's been a crazy week of this semester. And so I appreciate you being here. Again, there's tons of information in the chat. So go back in there if you need to grab a link to the graduate office, career readiness, the library. Go ahead, grab those links, bookmark them in your personal computer or whatever computer you use for your work as a resource. With that, it is about 12 and we'll take a break until about 12:30. So this Zoom will stay open, but if you want to check out and step away from the screen for 30 minutes, please feel free to do so. And we look forward to having you back in here at 12:30. Is that correct? Yeah, 12:30.
Yeah. Yep, it's a half hour. Okay. Yeah, normally we buy lunch, but sorry we can't. Again, COVID restrictions leave us socially out of touch with each other. But we would have loved to get you lunch had we been able to do that.
Yeah, there's hopefully as restrictions lessen, we'll have more opportunity to do some things face to face and really get to know our community a little bit better. So yeah, so I'm gonna pause the recording, and I hope to see everyone back here at 12:30, and have a good break. Welcome back. Glad everyone made it. We hope everybody got a little extra break time in, was able to get up, walk around, move around, get something to eat, and then just sort of have a good time to kind of decompress. We threw a lot at you there earlier this morning, and hopefully it was all really, really helpful. So thank you for everyone for coming back and being with us this afternoon. Oh, yes, please. Thank you. Thank you, Eve. Okay. Just also, I forgot to kind of mention, there is a live transcript option for your convenience in the Zoom features at the bottom of your window. You can click on that and it'll provide a sort of live transcript for you. With that, it is 1:01. I'm sure other people will continue to join us, and I'll monitor that as we go. But let's kind of try to stay on schedule so that we can get everything, all the information that you need to be complete. Again, if you're joining us new, my name is Veronica Black. I'm the programs coordinator for the Center for Teaching Excellence. All morning sessions and afternoon sessions have been recorded and will be made available to you next week, along with all of the resource materials that were shared from our presenters. So keep an eye out on your email and the Highlands portal for that information. Ruth, do we have you here with us today? Hey, Ruth.
You certainly do. Hey, Veronica, how are you doing?
Doing well, doing well. I'm going to pin you just so that we all know where you're at. Whenever you are ready, the floor is yours.
Okay. So welcome, graduate assistants. My name is Ruth Mariam Polsky. I'm the Director of Compliance and Title IX Coordinator. And basically, I'm just going to give a short presentation that pretty much explains what that means to you. Within your role as a graduate assistant, you're both a student and an employee. That means that all laws that protect and control employment and all laws that protect and control education, they all apply to you. And by the same token, it is possible for you to violate them. So the two major ones that people know about really touch on my two titles. There's Title IX, some might be a slightly familiar term. And on the employee side, there is Title VII, which is Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which is what we usually think of as anti-discrimination law in the employment context. So just to give you an idea of like who I am, what I'm about, I've lived here in Las Vegas for just over a year. I moved just before the start of the pandemic, which was an interesting timing for me. I'm an attorney. I'm not licensed in New Mexico, and I don't give legal advice, but I have a lot of legal background, and oftentimes I have an easier time explaining legal concepts to people who have questions. So basically, what's Title IX? I already sort of gave a brief explanation. Title VII is anti-discrimination law. It forbids discrimination in employment on any protected category that's defined in law, which includes the federal categories and the categories here in New Mexico, which you can look up if you want to, but they're things like race, gender, ethnicity, ancestry, disability, things of that nature. So if you believe that you are being discriminated against for a reason like that, I'm the person to talk to and tell me what's going on. And I conduct investigations into discrimination cases and retaliation cases, and I produce findings. On the Title IX side, the procedure is a little different depending on how tied in with the news you are. You may be aware that there were some very big changes in Title IX last year. But basically, Title IX requires universities to end unlawful discrimination on the basis of sex. And that includes both unlawful conduct of employees and professors and unlawful conduct of students. So from a Title IX perspective, if someone is harassing, stalking, assaulting you because of your role on campus, Title IX does not allow that, and you can report that situation to me. Now, some understanding about Title IX is that people have many different reasons and goals for making a complaint. Some people just want to put their concern on the record. Some people want the university to take a type of specific action. If all you want to do is put your concerns on the record, it's very, very simple. Just call me up and let me know. when it comes to a punishment, the university is required by federal law to engage in a very formalized investigation and hearing process. So I don't want to go into all the details right now. We are currently finalizing our Title IX policy. We hope that it will be done very soon, but we will circulate it to the entire community when it is. One thing I want you all to know, in your role as employees, you will be mandatory reporters of sexual misconduct under our new policy. And what that means is that if a student comes to you and tells you something like, I was sexually assaulted, or I had a very confusing encounter and I don't know what to do, or I'm feeling harassed, or a teacher tried to exchange grades for sexual favors. Anything that runs that whole gamut, right? Anything that feels like it's sexual conduct or on the basis of gender, you should report to me. If a student or you may have observed or experienced yourself, of course. But when it comes to student reports, you're going to be a mandatory reporter, and that means, in practical terms, don't judge or evaluate what you've heard, just tell me what you've heard. You don't have to investigate, and you should not investigate. You also should let the student know that they have a place, which is me, my name, Ruth Marian Polsky, where they can make a report themselves. But regardless of what the student plans to do, you as an employee will need to make a report to me. Once you've done that, that's all you need to do. And once you've done that, usually the next question I hear is, okay, so I made a report, what's going to happen then? Because in many cases, if a student tells you this kind of thing, it's because they have some kind of trust and confidence in you, right? So the actual deal is that when someone makes a report to me, what I do is I immediately reach out to the person who is affected and find out if they want to talk to me. And it is completely their choice whether they do or they don't. Regardless of whether they want to go through any kind of formal procedure, I can offer them some supportive measures if they're having a difficult time being on campus because of what they experienced. So even if they don't want to make what's called a formal report and have a formal investigation and a formal disciplinary process, I can offer support to the student and work with them to see what kind of measures would help them. Sometimes people want to change rooms and I can facilitate that. Sometimes people, let's say someone has a court date, like they need to testify and that court date is in conflict with an exam. Many times I am able to kind of be the intermediary, facilitating the student or you getting what you need to participate in that kind of legal procedure. In addition, if anybody ever wants to be engaged in a legal procedure, whether they want to file a criminal complaint or whether, again, they need to testify in a criminal complaint, if they want company and assistance, I can also accompany someone just for moral support and also sort of to explain what's happening. So these are just some of the few things that I can do if someone has a concern. And really the hallmark is this person feeling comfortable on campus? Does this person feel that they are able to continue their education? If a person is feeling a level of stress to where they can't feel that they can continue their education, I want to do the most that I can to restore their balance so they feel they can continue their education, whatever that means to them. So it's very much a student led procedure. I don't impose my opinions on what a person should do. It's really their personal choice. So those are basically the two major functions of my office. And I please encourage you to reach out if you have any questions or concerns about discrimination matters, about retaliation matters, and about sexual harassment and sexual assault matters. This is pretty much my wheelhouse. I will add that I also deal with other employment law things, like if you think you haven't been paid properly, Or if you're denied an accommodation and you think that it's wrongful, that's also something that you can report to me, and I can also investigate those types of employment law matters. So basically, if you feel like, you know, something is happening that's discriminatory, that I am your woman and I am your point of contact, and I hope that any person who feels, you know, that they have this type of concern will remember my name, Ruth Marion Polsky. I think there's only one Ruth on campus entirely at this point, at least who's in the employee side. I don't know about students. So if all you remember is my first name, my email address is ruthm@nmhu.edu. And there's also a Title IX email address so that you don't have to even remember my name, and that's TIX, get it, T9 at nmhu.edu, and that goes directly to me. However, of course, if I'm on vacation or I'm hit by a bus, some other people can reach the Title IX emails in an emergency. So this is pretty, another thing I really want to highlight as well is that when it comes to gender-based discrimination, which is a category that's covered by both Title IX and Title VII, it's covered by both employment law and educational law. Discrimination, thank you, against people who are transgender or just simply don't conform to gender stereotypes or gender expectations, that is also a type of discrimination on the basis of sex or gender. So, you know, if someone is hassling you, harassing you, or giving you a poor grade, or affecting your educational process in any way because you don't conform to their idea of a gender identity, that would also be something that's covered by both Title IX and Title VII. So when we say on the basis of gender, we also mean on the basis of gendered expectations and gender stereotypes. So most people aren't aware that existing laws already cover that behavior. And so that's why I really wanted to highlight it. So that is pretty much my role. I want to point out a few places online where you can find my contact information. One is obviously by the directory that's within the portal. They just type somebody's name and it searches for you. I'm in there. The other place is under student resources. I have a Title IX page that has some information and also contact information. Also on the public facing website, the one that anyone can see, if you go to the very bottom, if you scroll all the way down and you go to the very bottom, there's like a list of little text links. And under the legal section, there's a link to Title IX. And that again has some very basic information and my contact information. So, and fourth, I don't know if any of you have looked at the Engage portal, which is a portal product that has information about events and services. And Title IX has some pages within the Engage portal as well. Again, has some basic information and my contact information. And the thing that I would really throw out there is don't wait until a situation is extreme. If you have concerns, bring them to me my goal would be to prevent the situation from ever becoming extreme. But, also at the same time, it's no judgment. If you've held off for your own personal reasons and now you want to make a report, come make a report. It's it's a complicated decision for a lot of people. So I do understand that a lot goes into it. I would urge you to think of me as a resource and a source of knowledge. And I can't give legal advice, meaning I can't tell you what's the legally best thing for you to do, but I can give you lots of information and help you fully understand what your choices are. So, and finally, I would also just remind you that we have a student health center that has free and confidential counseling. So if you're struggling with the decision about whether or not you want to make a report, they are a resource for you to help you talk through and decide how you want to approach it. Your conversations with the Student Health Center are fully confidential, including from me. They're also free. And so I would urge you, if you're struggling with a decision and you want to talk to me, but you're not sure, I would definitely urge you to seek support from the Counseling Center. And they are the ones that can help you make a decision on a completely confidential basis. From my perspective, because I'm a person who's charged to resolve these type of issues, I will keep your information private, meaning I will share it with the minimum number of people that I need to advance your concerns, but I cannot keep it totally confidential, meaning I cannot keep you completely anonymous from every person in the process. And so that's the difference between privacy and confidentiality. Health Center, totally confidential. They will tell no one. Me, I'm private. That means I will tell the fewest people that it is possible to tell while still advancing your request for resolution. I don't want to pour too much information on you all at once. I know you have a really long day of training, and I just wanted to leave some time if there's any questions or concerns that anyone has about anything that I've shared today. Are there any questions in chat at the moment? It looks like.
No, Ruth, there's no questions in the chat. I did drop links to the front-facing Title IX information page, so you have that link there. Also, Ruth's contact information plus the TIX email as well. So you have all those there as well. Those will also be made available on our CTE website, but that's it's right there at your fingertips. Also, I forgot about Engage. Thank you for reminding me, Ruth. That's a really cool new platform that's being introduced. And so I put the link to that as well in the chat. It's going to be a really great resource for you.
Yeah, and like I said, I think that if there's one thing that you as graduate students, there's one message I want to communicate to you, it's that situations will arise that you feel totally out of your depth. And I'm here as a resource and an education and a support to help you and any students that may bring issues to you along these lines. As GAs, a lot of times students will feel more comfortable speaking to you about this type of issue because essentially you're closer in age to them and they may feel that you have more of an ability to relate to them. And that's why I'm highlighting this for GAs, because relatively speaking, you're relatively likely to be approached by a student or a friend that has a concern like this, whether it results in sexual misconduct, whether it's someone being stalked, someone being threatened or harassed. I know it may seem you're like, hey, I'm just trying to get my graduate degree and help some undergrads with my classes. And, you didn't necessarily think about the fact that you may be seen as a safe person to talk to. But I would say, relatively speaking, you're more likely to hear this type of concern than a full faculty member, and certainly more likely than a member of the administration. So you're out there on the front lines. You're gonna encounter situations that you don't know how to deal with. If it relates to discrimination, if it relates to gender, if it relates to race, if it relates to ethnicity, I'm your woman, I'm your resource, and I wanna help you with anything of that nature that may arise. And that is pretty much it.
Excellent.
You can see I've got RBG over my shoulder. She keeps an eye on me.
Does anyone have any questions for Ruth? You may not have them at this time, but as you decompress this training today, something might arise. So please jot down her information. She's a great resource for any questions, concerns, anything that really comes up I talked to her a lot about, well, we talked a lot about a lot of things, how to make
That's
cheese
true.
and what is my legal right for this. So she's a great resource for that knowledge.
Yeah, and I wish you all a great semester, and I'm actually finishing a tiny bit early, which, you know, hey, there's nothing wrong with that. But yes, I agree with Veronica. If something comes up later, you're like, oh man, I wish I'd asked Ruth about that, or I wanted to ask, but I felt a little inhibited because there was a public forum. Toss me an email, drop me a text. You can text me at my cell number, which is 505-429-6888. That's my work issued cell. I know some people love to text. I love to text. So, and it's going to be, you know, we'll all work together and have a great year. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Ruth.
So that's all I have.
Well, that's great. It was very informative. It is a lot to digest. I get that. Especially when you're not familiar with the context and you're still learning these things. So yeah, thank you, Ruth. I appreciate your time. Because we do have a little bit of time between now and our next speaker, which is fine. That's really awesome. Some things that I would like to point out, as I too was a student here at Highlands. I did not do my master's here, so I don't know what those shoes are like, but I did do a master's. And so I have been a graduate student, and I do know the trials and tribulations. But in case you are unfamiliar, let me see if I can. I wanted to. I don't know how many of us are brand new, and I guess maybe we can take a little bit of a poll here. If this is your first year here at Highlands in a graduate program, give me a thumbs up. There should be reactions at the lower bottom of our Zoom. All right, we got some reactions. That's cool. Sage Martinez, did you have your hand raised? Did you have a question?
No, I meant to thumbs up. Sorry.
Oh, thumbs up. Got it. No problem. Justice, did you have a question? Or are you just trying to do a thumbs up too? Or like kind of raise your hand?
I was just trying to do a thumbs up. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. Zoom is a weird little beast of a platform, and it's got some fun little bugs. Cool. Excellent. Thank you for the thumbs up. I like using the reactions. Those are kind of my favorite. I really like the Zoom filters. Like I like to think that I'm pretty awesome. Like I'm in theater and the whole crowd is just kind of like, yay, you're super cool. Or I just wear the cool sunglasses. You know, I just do this in meetings all the time. Probably not professional, but it does keep things lively. With that, there are some really great resources as first-time folks here at Highlands, and I just kind of thought maybe I'll take a couple of minutes since we're waiting on our next presenter to kind of walk through these things if you're not familiar with them. Thanks, Milana. Thanks for I love the glasses too. Okay, so I'm going to share my screens really quickly, and I'm just going to kind of walk you through. Oh no, Henrietta had an emergency. Okay, cool. All right, so we're going to get this rolling. So I just wanted to share a couple of things with you that I think are pretty helpful as incoming students, just to kind of know where your resources are. So this is our Highlands homepage, and we know kind of how to navigate that. There's a lot of really great resources if you use this site as your tool to apply to the school. But some of the things that I think are really interesting and that can be really helpful is, of course, you have like all of your library stuff is up here: academics, athletics, contacts, locations, all of our different centers. So if you're from a center, yay! Thank you for being here with us today. So the tools here are really awesome. This website is really well built. You have our calendars of events. Things are getting kind of postponed, but that doesn't mean that they're canceled. It just means that they might shift around. They have some really cool concert, really great events. Highly check it out and just kind of see what's going on. Something I think is really cool is at the bottom, like Ruth is kind of pointing out, there's a lot of really great resources for you. These resources may not seem necessary all the time, but like legal stuff. So if you're interested, here's the Title IX thing right here. But something I really think is really great is our directory. So our directory will give you the resources to maybe find somebody, say, hey, you need to contact Ruth, but you don't know how to get a hold of her. You can just type in her name and it'll pop up and you'll get the person you're trying to contact, and it's a really great resource. Another really great thing is like what Gail was kind of mentioning, if you're interested in applying to work here at Highlands, especially if you are student jobs, that's what I wanted. You can also click here and see all the posting for student jobs as well. So students, faculty, and so on. And you can kind of go through the motions, see what's available here at Highlands. A lot of your colleagues here at Highlands have gone through this process and have worked here at Highlands and worked their way into a position here. I know myself being a student here, and now I work here, you know, it's a really great space to use that. I'm going to go back really quick, and I'm pretty sure you're all really familiar with how to get into the portal. The portal looks like this. It might look a little different depending on, I don't know what it looks like for students exactly, but I can imagine it's kind of similar. Some really cool things that I think are really awesome about the portal is the updates. One of the things that I recommend, if you haven't already done it, is you can go to your preferences. I think it's actually, you go up to your name preferences. You can identify things that you want to kind of see, or no, sorry, it's profiles. Oh, go figure. Profiles, you can see what you want to see in the news updates. Because sometimes, you know, not everything is probably something that you're really interested in. But I always click food and fundraiser, professional, academic, and click the things that make sense to you. And I just kind of wanted to point that out if you haven't already noticed that as you're getting acclimated to the Highlands like systems and things that are available to you. But I really like it. I like to see what's going on. There's some really cool stuff. And this is where the CTE posts a lot of our events. Links to our trainings will also be posted here as well. And we want to make sure that you get the information and you know what's going on. So I will stop sharing screens because we got just one more minute before our next presenter will come. One of the things too, I know that we are kind of in this weird limbo between classes being on Zoom and things being face-to-face. And one of the things that I think is really awesome is signing up for the Highlands notification alert system. If you're not familiar with that, I'll get you that information and put it in the chat. It just helps too, just to kind of keep yourself in the loop on things that are going on, fast things that are happening with COVID, but also it comes in really great handy when there's weather too. If you are commuting from afar, it's really great to know whether your classes are delayed or canceled altogether. So I encourage you to sign up for that. Okay, so it is 1:30. Let's see. Our next presenter is Dean Blea. I don't know if Dean Blea is with us yet. Oh, Catherine, are you trying to say something? I'm not hearing you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
It's a lot on Zoom, by the way. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Okay.
Everybody gets
Yeah.
kind of gets crazy. So the next one, Dean Blaya couldn't make it either. So the next one
no.
will be Henrietta Romero, and unfortunately she had a direct emergency that she had to take care of. She did say that you can direct them to the FERPA links, and then they can send their certificates to me, and they can use this time now to go get trained on FERPA.
Okay, well, very cool. There's always something kind of going on, isn't there? Well, sorry that those emergencies have popped up, and we will not be able to have that information shared for you. What I will do is we will collect that information and put it on our CTE website and send it out to you. Let me see something really quickly. Okay, so I'm going to just spotlight myself really quickly, just because it's going to make it easier. Cool. So Catherine, so with the FERPA training, just so you know, I'll give you a little bit of information about FERPA. I am not the expert. Henrietta Romero, our director of registrars, she is the sort of our guru of sorts to FERPA here on campus. So FERPA, let me pull that up really quickly.
I can help. I've got it on the bottom of my email. The FERPA means the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. So basically, just to give you, there we go. Sorry, guys. Can you hear me better?
Yeah.
Okay. Forgot it was up. Another hazard of being on Zoom all day. FERPA stands for the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. So basically, what happens in this office, in the Graduate Studies office, is I get a phone call from one of your parents, and they want to know how you're doing. And the first thing I do is find out if you have signed the FERPA Release Act, or the FERPA release that's housed in registrars. If you haven't signed it, I can't give them any information. Okay. If you have signed it, some have restrictions on how much information I can give. So I can only answer within that bounds. So basically your education rights are protected. That's it in a nutshell. Henrietta would get much, much more detailed.
Yes.
Okay. And she, like Veronica said, she is the guru. So
yeah, her department, registrars, if you aren't familiar with registrars is, well, registering, but they also handle a lot of transcripts and a lot of other information while you are a student here at Highlands, and they protect your privacy and your rights as well. And so they're the people who sort of know everything about FERPA and can provide you information. So please do reach out to registrars. I will try to throw that information in the chat in just a few seconds. But so what we're going to do really quickly is I threw the link to the FERPA training that we are asking you to do. We would like to give you a full week, so by next Friday, to do this training, and at the end of the training, you get a sort of certificate, if you will, a sort of notification that says, "Hey, you completed this training. Thank you very much." You'll get that, and I believe it saves as a PDF, and please email that to Catherine. Catherine put her email also in the chat, so you have that there as well. And again, all this resources will be made available to you next week. So if today is a really crazy day, you've got lots of other things going on and you just can't get to it, or you forget a step or whatever, and you'll get an email on Monday that sort of explains some of this stuff too. But if you've got the day, please take some time and get it done. It takes about 20-30 minutes depending on your internet speed. But it is pretty straightforward and it's pretty easy to do. So I'm going to share screens really quickly. I'm going to share screens. So this is what, yeah, this is what I want to share. Okay. This is what the website looks like. It is the studentprivacy.ed.gov. You are doing the FERPA 101 for college and universities. This is sort of a standard training, so there's a lot of variations. This is kind of standard. You can read over kind of what again what FERPA is. Catherine kind of explained it to you, but you can just read it over on your own, and then you just click this link. Oh, sorry, 35 minutes to 45 minutes is how long it takes. So I stand corrected. You just click on access to this course. It will probably prompt you to sign in, and that could just be your Highlands email and whatever password you choose. And then you just go through the process of the training. And it's pretty straightforward. It also, if you need to jump out of this training and get back in and you forget your password, you can correct that as well. But essentially, I'm just going to go back. Essentially, it's just a simple walkthrough of the procedures and your rights to your privacy while you are a student of Highlands. And it will provide you with information. But if you do have any questions whatsoever, I'm going to go ahead and grab registrar's info and pop it in our chat. If you do have questions in regards to FERPA as you're going through, I'm going to put Henrietta's information first in the chat. She is, like I said, the expert in FERPA, so please reach out to her. This is the Office of the Registrar's information and resources that you can find. So if, as you're going through the training, you do have questions, you do have concerns, feel free to reach out to them. They are your resource. They are here to help you and support you. So again, that FERPA training link is right here. Please email your completed certification of FERPA to Catherine. And there's that information there. Any questions about this?
I just want to say one thing. Since we've already scheduled this time for you to go ahead and do this FERPA training, if you can get it done today, you'll be ahead of the game.
Absolutely.
You'll be ahead of the game, and then you're not going to be stressing at the end of the week trying to get it done, okay, on time, because then I have to send you an email.
Yeah.
I had a question.
Yes.
So I noticed on there that there's a 2021 FERPA 101 and then just a plain old FERPA 101. Which one would you prefer that we do?
Just the one that's in the plain FERPA 101. Just
Okay,
plain.
that's fine.
Yeah, I believe the date should say January 2020. Just do that one. That's your one. Awesome. Thank you for that. I didn't know there was more out there. Yeah. Yeah. So the reason also why we ask you to do this is we want you to be aware of your rights, but also where the violations can kind of happen. If this is your first time here at Highlands and you might be in a classroom, either as a teaching assistant, or in some cases, some of our departments actually have some of their grad students actually teaching. I know English has students teaching composition, or graduates teaching composition. I believe also social work has some teaching opportunities as well. We just want to make sure that you also know where those lines are, and those lines are not, so that they won't get crossed. I think that's really it. And like we said, we did sort of schedule the rest of today to be able to spend this time doing this training. And I think we should let you kind of do that. If there aren't any other questions or concerns, let me go ahead and I'll put my contact information in the chat so that you can reach out to me if you have questions later on. Oh, if I can only spell my name.
Yeah, if you're working with any kind of student records, you'll need to pass the FERPA as well.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. My info is in the chat, so please reach out to me. I'm here all day.
There's a quiz, isn't there, Veronica? I can't remember, but I think there's a quiz after you watch the videos. Angel's nodding her head yes. So there's a quiz after you watch the videos, and then you pass that quiz, and then you'll get a certificate, and that certificate is downloadable as a PDF, and then you'll send it to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Good question.
Yeah, good question. Thank you. All right. Well, I think we are kind of at time. And I think you've got all this wonderful information at your fingertips, and I understand it is a lot. And so if you do have any questions, please do reach out to me or Catherine, and we're here to support you. At this time, I'm going to just I'm going to stop our recording.